All right, we're ready. Let's pull it up. We'll start with the consolidated income statement as of January 31st, 2023. All right, well, we'll start with the total operating revenue for Trent Court, $103,000, $103,884.75. For New Bern Tower, $77,197.80. Going down to total operating expenses for Trent Court, $67,584.43. The admin costs $45,940.26. CHI business activity negative $1,967.01. For the Ross grant, $5,835.27. And for New Bern Towers, $27,134.88. For total net income for Trent Court, $36,300.32. For the admin is negative $45,940.26. CHI business activity, $1,967.01. The Ross grant is negative $5,835.27. And New Bern Towers, $50,062.92.
Can I make a motion to accept the finance
You
report?
got a motion to approve the finance report is presented.
I'll second.
Any further questions or comments? All in favor of approving the minutes as published, indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Like sign. The finance report has been approved as presented. Next will be the executive director's report.
So tonight, I'm gonna defer what I have to share because I really spent most of the time working on the FEMA application, and I have Valarie Phillips, who's joined us by Zoom with Witt O'Brien, and she's our FEMA consultant, and she's just gonna give you all an update on where we are with that.
Good evening. Thank you, Tiffany. Good evening, everyone. Can you hear me okay?
Yes, ma'am.
Thank you so much. As Tiffany noted, my name is Valarie Phillips, and I'm an associate managing director with Witt O'Brien. And my area of specialty is FEMA public assistance grants management. And so we came on board in December of 2022. So I just wanted to give you some high level points from a consultant's perspective regarding what has transpired since Florence happened many years back now, and where things are headed at the moment with respect to the completion of that grant process for the Housing Authority. And please stop me if you have any question, or I can go through a few points and answer any questions that you do have. I thought initially that I would have expected the Housing Authority to be further along in the process, as I know many of you also believe. But I think there's a lot of things that being integrated into the meetings with all of the different parties involved, from federal, state, local, the Housing Authority, its consultants. I was able to observe a handful of things that have caused some delays in the process. One being the changes in the Housing Authority administration over the years. That has not helped because the historical knowledge of things that have transpired in the past has left. So it's almost led to needing to start over every time there's a change in administration. And that's where Tiffany's at now, having started last year, getting integrated into this process to find out exactly what needed to occur to move it forward. Those changes in the Housing Authority also come along over time with changes in FEMA staff. and changes in the state of North Carolina staff that have been involved in the process. Typically, FEMA staff only stay on board for 90 days. Sometimes we get lucky and they're longer. So every time there's a changeover in staff, people are relying on looking at information that's been collected in the FEMA grant portal online and other historical notes to try to see what's going on and what direction they need to go. One of the other larger issues that I've learned in being involved in the process and being party to multiple agencies on phone call meetings that we've had is that it's been hard for any one entity, meaning the state, HUD, or FEMA, to make a decision on who the legal responsible entity is that should take charge of the process and implementation of funding and environmental reviews. I think that the buck has been passed around many times, and even since I've been involved, it's been passed around. So there's some pushing off that responsibility to different agencies that are not taking the responsibility. And so I believe that we're trying to get on the correct path now, that FEMA is going to be the primary responsible entity for funding, but then everyone will have a say in the environmental, the impacts to the property, the historical nature of the property. It's going to be a multi-agency implementation of that and feedback from everyone to make sure it's all done in line with what everyone requires. Then, the last part of that is that even within individual agencies, there seems to not be a consensus on how to approach different aspects of demolition, reconstruction, master planning, to address all of the considerations I just mentioned. We have phone calls, we get on the same page with one agency, and then a few days later, we get an email that changes direction. So it's been very difficult to try to round up everybody into one spot and have a consistent determination and a process and clear path to move forward. With all that being said, I think that we may have had some progress and breakthroughs in the past couple of weeks, because I think that all of the entities now have a better understanding of the priorities of the city, of the housing authority, and others that would like to see the buildings that were damaged as a result of the hurricane addressed and demolished, and then the administrative building construction completed so that Tiffany and her team can be on site to help with the path moving forward with what the master plan will look like and what will end up happening with the property as a whole. I believe that we have a good state team and a good FEMA team on board at the moment. It doesn't mean they will remain there for an unending amount of time, but I think everyone understands the priorities and the path to getting projects obligated. That's what we're working on right now, so that the demolition can be completed, the administrative building can be constructed in the Charles Taylor building, and that the housing authority can move forward with the plan and have the funding available from FEMA that it's eligible to receive as a result of the disaster event. In a nutshell, that's kind of where I see it going. Are there any particular questions that I might be able to answer for anybody that's at the meeting tonight?
Valarie, hi, this is Commissioner Bengal.
Hi.
It's too late for us to do the 428 grant, or is this in essence the 428 grant?
Right now, I don't believe that we need to approach the section 428 of the FEMA public assistance policy, because I do believe that the goal of the FEMA team we're working with now is to consolidate everything back into one project grant, and all the funds will be obligated together. So there's no need to do the different projects and do the consolidation that the 428 allows.
Okay.
We still will be able to approach all of the other facets of the FEMA program pretty much the same way. I don't believe that, switching paths to the 428 would be beneficial at this point. I wanted to just get everything compiled, make sure it's accurate, and get it moved forward to obligation. One of the problems we've had is that there's a lot of information floating around about what the housing authority wants to do, and various parties within FEMA and others that have from Region 4 and from local FEMA that have been involved in the process. They seem to have mixed up and misconstrued what needs to happen in an original FEMA project worksheet.
Right.
The project is meant to fund the damages, either repair or replacement, depending on what it's eligible for per the policy. And anything that the housing authority wants to do with the funding outside of rebuilding that building, any of the 13 buildings exactly where it was, it's not part of the initial project. And the FEMA teams have confused the issue with the reconstruction of the Charles Taylor building and the master plan that they know is going to occur at some point. And it's really muddied the waters and made for a very convoluted, confusing project application process for the housing authority. So we're trying to go backwards to step one and use all of the initial information, the site inspections, the cost estimates, the 50% rule analysis by which all of the buildings, all 13, the administration building and the 12 residential structures, they all met the rule for full replacement value. And that's demolition, that's replacement, elevation would be required up off the ground if they were to be built in place, which they're not. And then just everything related to that, the architectural engineering fees, all of those things are intact in the applications. I think that FEMA was not able to let go of the fact that they had equity considerations, historical considerations, lots of environmental considerations because of the special flood hazard zone, and they wouldn't set those aside just to get the initial project completed. And I think Thursday we had that breakthrough, and FEMA Region 4 environmental staff have agreed to work with the local FEMA to get the project cleaned up, get rid of everything that's not involved with the initial damages and replacement of the building, and let the housing authority apply for each alternate project to utilize the funding one at a time. And then they'll do their review after that fact. That's what they've tentatively agreed to. So that's the path we're on. It still will be a little while. We have Region 4 involved. We have local FEMA and state and North Carolina involved. And all of this information still has to filter up to FEMA Consolidated Resources Center. That will be the actual group that's reviewing the project, and they're in Virginia. So I do believe that we will have the assistance of FEMA and the state to try to help that process move forward and help the Consolidated Resources Center understand better how we got to where we're at, where we need to go, and to do it as expeditiously as possible.
And Valarie, they have all the information that we were supposed to submit to be able to do that. So the documentation is there from the agency. So
That's correct.
We've done all of that.
That documentation has been there for a very, very long time, and it just hasn't moved. I think with the changes and different people coming in and out over time, the ball's just been dropped so many times. And that's one of the reasons that we were engaged to try to help stimulate that conversation, try to guide different parties in different directions to just make something happen. It should never take this long, and it's unfortunate that it has, but I'm hoping that we can get on the right path now and get some action for the housing authority and get some funding that's available and get through all of the environmental clearance processes that are required.
Ms. Phillips, I don't have a question. I do just want to say I was on that initial call on the day. I was absolutely flabbergasted and frustrated with Tiffany with where the conversations started. And I do just want to say you brought a breadth of knowledge and scope to the conversation. And so on behalf of my colleagues around this table, I just want to say thank you for the work and for the momentum. And I'm glad you guys have the work group going. And so however we can support, I just want to articulate that.
Thank you so much. It's my pleasure. And trust me, if I could help make it move any faster at all, I would, and I will do my best to make that happen, working with Tiffany and her team.
Yeah, a little clarity on that call brought a whole lot of illumination on how convoluted the process has gotten over the years.
It's funny, we're going back to step one, which happened 3 years ago, to try to do it the right way. And that's the way it should have been approached from the beginning. So we've kind of regressed. We've gone all over the place and circled around the block a whole bunch of times, and now we're back to square one. And so I think when we're there and we have everything that's a little more clean, I think we can make progress.
Absolutely. Well, we're certainly dedicated to that.
Absolutely. Is there any other questions that I can answer?
Anybody have any more comments or questions from Ms. Phillips?
No. Thank you for joining us.
Thank you. Great.
You're welcome.
Great
Thank you so
information.
much. And I'm sure Tiffany will keep you guys posted, and we'll work our way through. But thank you so much. Have a good rest of your meeting.
Thank you.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Good night.
Thank you, Ms. Askew, for bringing her in this evening, and she echoed a lot of stuff you've been saying, but you know, we got somebody else involved, and you shared with me, you said on that meeting, and yeah.
I was absolutely flabbergasted. We got on the call and I thought we were gonna get a progress report, and around the call, everyone was like, so what are we doing? What are we doing? And Tiffany texted me and said, this is what happens every single meeting. And so just seeing what you have been dealing with all of the levels of every time we've changed leadership, every time there's a new person at the table, there's a different level and balls get dropped. And it was very, very clear that that has been the case. And really hard to herd cats when you have 17 shepherds all giving different directions. So kudos to you and your team, and thank you, Jamie, for helping us procure Valarie.
Thank you for that. New Bern Towers report, Ms. Simmons.
Ms. Stevens is out tonight, and so Ms. Minor is gonna present a report.
Thank you.
Good evening, everyone.
Good evening.
Okay, New Bern Towers have paid vacancy, occupancy rate 91%. Had 5 move-ins, 0 move-outs. She got 23 in progress and in process, I'm sorry, and 5 approved. Tenants accounts receivable charged with $28,086.
That last month's report.
Received was $57,124.61. Monthly unpaid was $900. And the part rate, year-to-date unpaid balance $2,961.87. Pending terminations are 9 and our payment of rent. For work order, 0 outstanding, had 35 completed, 35 completed, 7 police reports, and 3 fire reports.
I have some questions. And since Ms. Simmons, I'm not sure, maybe Ms. Askew, you could answer these questions. First of all, this would be the report for January, not February. Is that correct? At the top, it says February, but I assume it's the January report. Is that correct?
Yes.
Okay, all right.
It's for the
So
month of January.
that would be the first correction I'd ask for, is to state that it's January. And then the next issue is that last month's report for New Bern Towers showed that the occupancy rate was 92. We had 14 vacancies and 5 move-ins. Now, the 5 move-ins is part of the 92 units occupied, 3 move-ins, which would have made that 95, correct? This is last month. So last month's statement showed that we had 92 units occupied with 3 move-ins. And I assume when you do the move-ins, that's included in the 92, correct?
Correct.
Okay, so then when you started this month, it said you had 96 with 5 move-ins. So if that's part of that, how did you get from 92 to 96?
It's just one short, so it probably needs to be 97.
Correct.
Right.
So so I have that question as far as correcting that. And then my other question is,
So your occupancy is actually higher than you're showing.
Yes.
92.
We were just excited about it being over 90% because it's been below 90% for a really, really long time. So when we got there, I think everybody was overjoyed.
right, I just want to, make sure that we're correlating the numbers. Then when you give the unpaid and the charge, I'm trying to understand this myself. So it showed what was charged for the 96 units that are occupied, what was paid, the balance that was unpaid, which was 962 for the month. But then it said year to date. Doesn't your year start in January?
It does, but that could be for other things, like we could have people that may have been charged something for repairs or something like that. And then also Ms. Simmons, she has a lot of elderly residents, and sometimes they overpay. And I know you're asking about the unpaid, but
Yes.
the unpaid could be a lot of different things, not just rent, because they owe for other stuff. too.
Okay, well, it's just confusing in trying to understand if we had 962, but yet we've got a year to date and I just want to make sure our year to date starts in January, correct?
Right.
Okay, so I would assume it would have been 962. If there's additional funds, wouldn't we have separated that out just to say, so we know what the rent is that's unpaid? That's basically the balance, or is it other things? You're saying electricity?
It
Do they
could
pay?
they don't pay electricity, but they pay for damages. Like we had somebody who owed how much was that door, Mr. Jones? $600 for a door?
Yeah.
Almost $800 for a door. Yeah, to pick up their fire.
And they didn't pay for it, so it goes into the unpaid balance.
They didn't, of course, they didn't have $800 paid.
No, understood, but I'm just trying to understand that.
It's two of them being done.
It's 2 doors.
Yes.
Yeah, so they don't have $800 to pay up front, so we do repayment.
That's good to know.
Mhm.
Yes, ma'am. I'm sorry.
Thank you. Ms. Minor, transport report.
Supreme Court has 10 vacancies, occupancy rate 91%. We had 2 move-ins, 0 move-outs. We have 16 in process, 9 approved. Tenants accounts receivable charge is $30,310. We received $18,545.45. Month unpaid, 11,764.55. We have a tar rate of 61%. Year-to-date unpaid balance is $24,670.13. Pending terminations is 32. Outstanding requests for work orders is 2. We had 29 received, 27 completed, and 2 pending repair. For the police report, we had 19, and with the 19, 11 were assists for other agencies, and we have 0 fire reports.
You had some to pay?
Yes.
Awesome.
I need to go back and ask questions on this one again too, I believe, to look at your numbers again. So last month, we said we had 100 units occupied. And this month, you've got 100 units with 2 moved in, but we had no move outs. So there's a discrepancy in that.
Well, no, ma'am.
Okay.
We had a transfer, so which move one out, it's like adding one and taking one away, or, right, we had a transfer.
Okay,
So really, we had 3, but one of them was a transfer, so it was 2 move-ins and 1 was a transfer. We took 1 off the board and put 1 back.
okay, but last month you had 100 units occupied and you had nobody move out. So if you had a transfer, it would have still been 100, correct? Right, so then this month you have 100 units occupied with 2 move-ins. So it really should have been maybe 101.
I think the way our software is, when she does a transfer, it just automatically, it's a move in, because she has to move them in, and I think when she
Okay.
runs that report, it shows.
So it's 2 move-ins then, basically? I mean, 2
2.
transfers?
No, it's one transfer.
It's 1 transfer, so it's like 3. It's like one is moving out to move into another unit. So therefore, we taking 1 unit off and taking 1 off and putting 1 back on, because she's going to another unit.
Okay. I just was trying to back in the numbers. It just didn't make sense to me because the last month's report was the exact same numbers, 100 units occupied, 10 vacant, 2 move-ins, no move-outs. So that's.
Are you
Makes sense.
concerned with the non-payment of 32? Or
Oh, definitely.
tell me, what's the norm for that?
Well, for the Trent Court property, we have a lot of residents there who just, they just don't pay. And we have to go through the process. Sometimes we get all the way to court to evict and then get all of the money. But I mean, there's a lot of residents at Trent Court that just don't pay. It's just,
I mean, is that, I haven't really watched a 12-month pattern, but is that a high number? Is that a norm?
it's about a norm for this agency, but
So of that, how many of those will wind up catching up.
We just had 5, yeah, we just had, wasn't it 5 from last month? I think I had asked that, and not to cut you off, but I had asked that question last month. And they were, we were talking about it being Christmas or something like that.
Yeah, and
When it's Christmas, they're not, yeah,
when they get their income taxes.
Yeah.
They gotta pay all their rent back, for the most part.
if that helps answer your question.
Yeah, they usually don't pay in November and December. Maybe they won't pay in January, but then,
Maybe that's-
February, March, then they'll pay when they get their income tax.
Okay.
And that's happening at every agency that I work at.
Excuse me, but I have to excuse myself. I'm already late to the daycare.
Thank you for answering.
I still got on Zoom and left, but I just want y'all to.
Thank you.
Have a good night.
Thank you. We'll have Ms. The Ross program, Ms. Huggins.
Good evening.
Good evening.
I still have 58 participants, non-participants 42. I'm still providing case management, self-improvement and awareness with residents. Overall is resident intake, medical assistant, weekly self-sufficient updates, community service compliance, senior daily activities, Meals on Wheels, reentry, justice involved initiative, work first, vocational rehabilitation. Creighton Community College has a new program for the residents called Leadership Academy Phase 1 and Phase 2, where they get the residents involved, enrolled in mindset matters, mentoring, basic computer skills, career planning, effective communication, employment, and mock interviews. Well, we know about the HUD required evidence-based need assessments for the residents 65 and older. And as I told you guys last time, we only have 5 of those. I've done 3, but 2 of the residents that I was going to do the assessments for, they have not been available. So I will have to go back and see if I can do the assessments on them. But so far, they do not have any fall risk points that are higher than 12 on one of the pages and higher than 20 on the other. We still have 3 personal care aides. Health and wellness is provided through the health department, Mercy Clinic, and Trillium Health Resources. And also I've added another behavioral health, which is great place to start. Transportation is still current for the carts and omnibus. There's also a senior service activity for Craven County Senior Center. And the registration for that is April 28th for them to do an activity and have free lunch. The Interfaith Refuge Ministry is offering volunteer opportunities for the residents where they can offer orientation, teach English language, and provide transportation if they have a vehicle to satisfy their community service compliance. And also for childcare assistance, there is no waiting list at Craven County DFS. And also the Life Learning Center is offering free after school program from K to 12.
Thank you.
Any questions?
I just want to say this home ownership class, I see where it's at your church, and I think that's the big thing. I had an employee 15 or more years ago who lived here in Trankport, took the home ownership class, ended up buying her home, getting out of debt, buying her home, and sold it last year for twice what she paid for it. And is living in a B fund. So it's a great program, and it really does work. So I'm so glad to see.
We had a huge turnout there on the 4th.
Really good to see.
A lot of people were there.
Well done.
Yes,
Thank you.
thank you, doing a great job.
Thank you.
Just ask you to have a resolution.
We have, the bad debt write-off. And I'll let Ms. Wills.
For the collection loss for 2022 for Trent Court, we're proposing. My numbers are different. $19,683.58. And for New Bern Towers, $8,353. With a total collection loss of $28,036.58. For 2022 or 2021, excuse me, they wrote off close to just over 8,000 and collected $7,521.97 back between Trent Court and Craven Terrace, and none for New Bern.
What render, oh, go ahead.
No. I'm just curious about the Craven Terrace money. How do you account? I mean, because you haven't been collecting their money for what, 6, 7 years?
They owe us the bad debt still, and like if one of the residents, they want to move to another public housing authority or go to a subsidized property, they have to pay that money back. Because that HUD has a database and we put everybody in it throughout the country that owes money to a housing authority. In order for them to get assistance anywhere else, they have to pay that money back. So they're paying it back so they can get housed somewhere else.
Right, okay.
And then if we have a resident that was a prior resident that owe us a balance and they want to move back, then we'll let them do a repayment agreement to move back. And they'll pay back. They'll pay on the rent that they owe from when they moved out prior, and then they also pay on their current rent so that they could be housed again. But if they were gonna go to Greenville and live at their housing authority, they need to pay us all the money back before they can be housed there.
And do we do this yearly, the write-off of the collection loss? Is that a requirement by HUD
Yes.
that we write it off yearly? Okay, but you keep it in a pile, so as they pay back, you just put it to that line item.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, what else can you do?
Yeah, I know, I agree. I just didn't know how you handled it on the sheet.
You like it to be better than that, but it is what it is. I don't really absolutely know what you do.
And basically just moving it from accounts
Yeah, from one line to the other.
receivable into, or, you know.
Bad debt write-off.
What renders an account uncollectible? Are there tenants set out? Like, is it about time? What renders it uncollectible?
After each year, HUD requires us to do this. So if we're holding that balance, like we just can't keep, holding it. So we just write it off every year.
Okay, so it's just, okay.
Yeah.
What approximate percentage of that allowance for doubtful account? What is it? 3% or is it? In other words, if that's 28,000, what was your NOI? Have you ever looked at? I mean, is it 12% or?
I'll have to get back to you.
It was higher in 2022 because a lot of the tenants that were here during COVID that got behind on their rent that could not be evicted, been evicted at the beginning of last year. That's why it's significantly higher.
Yeah, we had one family that had a 5,800 balance. And then the others were
How does a person get that far behind that before you do something about it?
during COVID, we couldn't evict. You had to
Right,
wait.
you didn't have the COVID.
Yeah, we had to wait until,
So that in itself would, yeah.
mhm.
From what I was told, Pam said that 12 went to court, 6 moved out and left their balance, and the other 6 paid their balance and stayed. So it was just a lot piled up from COVID.
Having heard that, I make a motion that we adopt the resolution as written.
Second,
All in favor of approving the resolution as written, indicate by saying aye. All opposed, like sign. The resolution has been approved as presented. Are there any more comments or discussions at this time?
I really appreciate the consultant calling in. That helps out a little bit. And the only thing I would say to that is I can only have experience with the city. The more folks, if you know what the ultimate plan of action is, that you can get your local General Assembly members and your senators and others involved in other cities that might be having the same problem. That certainly helped. Where we got with the city, it kind of pains me that the housing authority maybe could have partnered early on with some of those that could have helped expedite that. It is what it is, and there's been quite a few changes, and I understand all that. But I think the biggest thing I would say to Tiffany is that, you know, when she tells you you need anything, let some of us help you get that if you need it. If you need somebody in the General Assembly, whatever, as an example, we early on, it wasn't the staff only, it was the elected officials that jointly went to DC and Raleigh to make sure that our voices were heard, and that, we all know how hard we were hurting as a city. And I think we got a lot of results because of the interaction of the staff and the elected officials, in this case, the appointed commissioners. So again, I think sounds good what she's doing. If there's anything we can help in any way, any of us, whatever, or get others involved, that, something's a gridlock. The biggest thing we were looking for was the gridlock with the 25% contribution from the state level or on the federal level. We met twice with FEMA. We met with HUD, Dr. Ben Carson. We met with Betsy DeVos with education. I mean, all these things intertwined. We met with HUD, met with Justice Department. We met with about 5 bodies, so New Bern was on the radar. So whatever we can do to get those buildings knocked down, and whatever we can do that we're going to do to bring something back, we all want the same thing. We might want it different, but just all of us working together, I hope we can do that and get where we need to get.
Good.
That's good. We had a discussion about going, bringing in elected officials. So, I mean, that's something we talked about. So maybe we'll reach out.
We stayed in City Hall
About that.
with 14 FEMA people in that conference room for 2 hours, argued that they wanted to put about an 8-foot dam, a gate, a fence, a containment around the existing Stanley White and not do anything. And, you could have that same argument here. And it took about 2 hours of condensing of the capillary effect of water just coming right underneath and going back up. And that we don't need that kind of stuff in New Bern. It's not. This isn't New Orleans.
I do want to give kudos to Tiffany with working with Mayor Odom, and definitely he's been very, very present and very, very supportive as far as doing that very exact thing, talking to our state officials. I know Steve Tyson's been in on the conversation, and we're behind the scenes. While we may not talk about it around this table, those conversations are happening, and Tiffany is staying on top of that. And I just want that to be known. Those aren't conversations that are not happening.
Mr. Chair, I just have one thing to follow up on, please. I had asked at the last meeting about trying to get us to post the agenda on the website. I know it's on the Facebook page. I did find the Facebook page finally, but many people either can't print or can't get to Facebook. I know I don't like to stay on it myself because it's not a good place to be, but I know we have a marketing person or somebody that did our website. I saw where we had hired somebody. It's an easy process just to do that. We put the time of the meeting, and of course we put the link for the Zoom thing, but I'd like to see the full agenda put on there so that our citizens and whoever wants to see it that may not be on Facebook can find it on our website.
It's not a problem. And Facebook is easy to use. I don't have Facebook either, but I can click on it. I can see every picture that we put on there, and that's how I see everything we do.
I understand, but not
I'll be
everybody
happy
does
to-
Facebook.
I'll be happy to put that on there.
I appreciate that. Thank you.
Thank you. So got a motion made, adjourn,
So moved.
Second.
meeting adjourned. Thank you all, those. I think this is very productive.
Yeah, and,
Things taking along the way, but we're getting there.
Okay, yeah, so.
I have to get it back to you.
Yeah, I figured